Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Corinne and on my channel we talk about all things thriving in your singleness, sex, and self-love. And today we're going to be talking about the story that you are telling yourself. First of all, we need to be clear on our self-love journeys that if we are not in love, we are in fear. There are only two choices in life, love and fear. No matter what it is. No matter what it is, you could be choosing a candy bar and you're either choosing love or fear. There's no other way around it. Okay? So you're either choosing love or fear. And in that, most of our stories are fear based. And let me explain what I mean by the story I'm telling myself. We all have self talk. We are either feeding ourselves love or we are feeding ourselves fear. We're either speaking life over ourselves or death over ourselves. There's really no in between. So the story, when I say the story that I'm telling myself, I mean that I have a narrative in my head about who I am. That's the story that I'm telling myself. And not only who I am, I have a narrative in my head about everything else that's going on in the world. So for example, let's say that I am somebody who has never traveled out of the country. And the story that I'm telling myself is every country that is not my country is dangerous and is unsafe, and that's why I'm not traveling, because they kidnap tourists and I'm going to get kidnapped if I leave. That is the story I'm telling myself. Does that happen sometimes? Yes. Is that the truth? Depends. But is that the only story? No. There are people who have been to every single country and have not been kidnapped. There are people who go on vacation every year and have felt more safety in their visiting countries than they have their home countries. So you have to understand it's just the story that you're telling yourself. That doesn't make it true. There may be some truth to it, but it does not make the story true. Another example, let's say that my last relationship was absolutely terrible and the person was really abusive and he had a beard. And so now the story that I'm telling myself is that all men with beards are abusive. And this may sound like ha 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 crazy, but I know people who are like all light-skinned men, all Latin men, all white women, all black women. The stories that they're telling themselves about one particular group of people based off an experience or not an experience that they haven't even had, but things that they are hearing. So you have to understand that we're all telling ourselves a story. This life that we're living is a story. Like, we are the authors of the story. And as much as you like it or not, the past pages up until this page and even the next page you're going to write, you're the author. So if you write and the story that you're telling yourself is, I'm broke and I come from a broke family and we're just broke. And so we're always going to be broke. And domestic violence was in my family. And so it's always going to be in my family. And we've always lived in this certain state. So I'm going to stay in this state. And my father hated his job and my mom hated her job and their parents did too. And so that's just what people do. They hate their jobs. Like, that is the story that is playing in your mind. That is the story that you're telling yourself. It does not make it true. There are people who have been living in abundance for generations. There are people who have been living in prosperity for generations. But that's because that's the story that they're telling themselves. The good news is you get to tell yourself a new story. That's what chapters and books are for. You get to say, you know what, period, done, we're done with that. The end of that story. New chapter. You get to write a new chapter. And the story that you get to tell yourself is you are healthy, you are whole, you are abundant, you are prosperous, you are beautifully and wonderfully made, you are loved. The Creator of the Most High calls you friend. Every single day you wake up in peace, perfection, and purpose. Your children are safe. Your children are whole. Generational curses are being broken with you. Every time you walk into the job, people feel inspired. You are successful in everything that you do. The only thing you ever do is learn and you never fail. You always fail forward. You keep on going. Everything that you listen to is motivation. Everybody you come in contact with is blessed and feels the spirit of God when they see you. Like, you literally can tell yourself this story and it will begin to be true. You'll be amazed by how much is changing just by the words and the narrative that you tell yourself. For me, it's something that I'm trying to break out of. It's like there are certain places that I can't go, right? Because I may not be of a certain age or a certain status or whatever. I'm done telling myself that story. And so I have started to go different places. Like, for instance, a cigar bar. It's really kind of for like a 30 plus crowd, but it's more my wave. But the story I was telling myself was, oh my gosh, when I go in here, people are going to look at me crazy because I'm young and I don't really smoke cigars, and people are going to think I look weird. And that's the opposite of what happened. But the story that I was telling myself was stopping me from going to a place I really enjoy. I enjoy them now. There's live music there. I'm a fan. But the story that I was telling myself, and that's a small example, the story I was telling myself was, this is not good. There's a really, really, really great example of, there's somebody who in my life I was in conflict with, and the story I was telling myself was that the reason that we were in conflict was because they hated the person who, like, they hated me as a person. That's the story I was telling myself. And then I asked them a question and they told me something totally different. And so the story I was telling myself was wrong. it wasn't backed up. It was baseless. So be careful of the stories that you are telling yourself. Know that you're the author and tell yourself empowering stories. Real practical ways to do this. Write down your ideal life. I mean, no limits, no cap. If it's you want to open up a car wash on Saturn, write that down. Start telling yourself that story. And it may sound weird at first and like, oh, this is stupid, this is dumb. But I promise you, it will start to come true because you believe it. Whatever you believe is true. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. The Bible is saying, tell yourself a better story because as you think, so you are. Tell yourself a better story, but also become aware that you're telling yourself a story. If your last 4 relationships have been abusive or toxic or whatever, understand, like, get to the root of what is the story I'm telling myself about relationships. Like, what is this story or this tape that keeps on playing in my head about relationships that I'm repeating over and over and over and over and over and over, and I'm believing. Realize that you are telling yourself a story and